So we're now going to move on to our panel of experts. I'm delighted to introduce to you from Derby City Council's Food Safety, Roisin Babe, and Derby City Council, one of the sponsors. Today we've got Paul Harris, Managing Director at Derby Brewing Company, Helen Vann, the Sales Manager at Pentahotel in Derby, Bryony Sibson, Sales and Marketing Manager at Mount Cook, Max Poynton, Operations Manager at Project D. And we're going to hear a little bit from all of them about their experiences. I'm going to start with Roisin, who's going to speak about her team at Derby City Council, along with other partners, and how they help to reopen into and do it obviously safely. Then followed the reopening of the city of Derby, followed by the nighttime economy. Huge amounts to get your head around in a very short space of time. And then, of course, how she can still help her and her team. Roisin, very, very warm welcome to you.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm not sure I want to follow everybody else's. I think I'm going to be lambasted.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
Yes, definitely. Yes, thank you for inviting us to speak today. It's been a difficult time for everybody since the 23rd of March. I think that's fair to say, the council as well as yourselves. We've been in emergency procedures, which has brought a huge new wave of COVID-19 work, which has somewhat taken over our business as usual work. As you can imagine, it just seems to be growing and growing and growing. And we're trying to react to that as best and as fast as we can. I'd like to say that we have prior notice to the guidance before it's released, but I'm afraid we get it at exactly the same time as you. So needless to say, there's been many late nights trying to interpret that and make some sense of it before we get the phone calls the following morning from all the many businesses in the city that are desperately trying to make sense of it all and make it work within their businesses and for their customers. So we've tried really hard to sort of implement the required controls within businesses alongside them. There were lots of emergency procedures for our team to address, such as reorganising our business as usual work, working with the public health team to arrange track and trace systems within the council, and react to the many outbreaks initially within the community and care homes sector. That was quite a priority at the beginning, because obviously there was quite a lot of deaths in the care homes from COVID-19, and the lack of PPE provision and all sorts of things that were needed to be addressed. We were also working with our friends, the Food for Thought Alliance, to secure plans to enable the council and volunteers to operate the COVID hubs throughout the city. We recognised that we needed many more of these than we already had in all the various districts within the city, to provide food parcels and packages and support for those that were in need and isolating and poorly and not able to come out, and a whole range of reasons why they needed support. Unfortunately, due to COVID, quite a lot of the people that deliver these services are volunteers and fell into the shielding sector, so that volunteering disappeared overnight by about 70% of the staff that they usually have. So we had to sort of, get systems and procedures in place to make sure that donations were still coming in, which obviously fell away because people weren't out shopping and donating and things like that. So we had to sort of tap up all the local businesses, try and get some donations coming in, we had to find somewhere that we could quarantine it all and create another area where the food then went to be packaged and parcelled. We had to make sure that, obviously, in the same way that all your businesses has to do the social distancing, those types of measures had to be put in all of those facilities as well. And we had to magic up some staff to run them alongside volunteers from the community. And what a fabulous group of people. Everybody rose to that challenge, and people who from different volunteer sectors who worked in isolation, usually they all came together to form this alliance, and have coordinated it really, really well, and has delivered and kept everybody fed that needed to be. You know, there was ticketing systems and mechanisms that had to be put in place to make sure that people who needed the support were getting their fair share of it. All sorts of things went into that, so that was quite a challenge initially to get set up, but we managed it between us, which was great. After this, we had to ensure that COVID guidance was implemented in essential businesses that were allowed to carry on trading, like the supermarkets and takeaways and things like that. So there was initial flurry of work to get them COVID secure, both from a delivery point of view and from an internal point of view in the working environment. So we worked initially with all those businesses that continued to trade throughout lockdown to get them up and running and get controls into supermarkets where people, I don't know if you can remember that far back, there was big queues and it was all a little bit crazy and it was all a little bit new, and they were fighting over toilet rolls and all sorts. So yeah, we got all that sorted, and you know, all the businesses in their own way you know, rose to the challenge of putting controls in place, which is fair play to them, really. We also had many businesses that didn't lock down when they should have been, and obviously we're responsible for making sure that they finding them and making sure that they were closed as they should have been, and following the guidelines. We had some notices and things to serve and what have you, but we managed to pick up most of it, which was done alongside the police, if you like. Following this, it's all just kind of merged on, and we've just galloped from one sector to the next sector until we've got them all open as the relaxations moved along. But we recognised that there was going to be quite a hefty amount of work to do with businesses to get them where they needed to be able to open up when it was their turn, if you like. So obviously we started with the biggest, and we worked alongside Into quite closely to develop their controls and think those systems through, which, you know, to the general public probably just look like a few signs and a bit of tape on the floor, but the logistics of getting that down in a way that's safe, closing roads to allow for queuing, conferring with the police, terrorism for queues on the street so that they could be protected if there was going to be queues on the street, how we were going to comply with the guidance, how we were going to introduced enhanced cleaning throughout there, remove seating areas, how we would make more space on the malls to provide extra footfall and one-way systems, and all the bits and bobs that have gone alongside it, managing the toilets, and like somebody else has already said about crossed out toilet sinks and what have you. We've gone through all of that process on quite a large scale, and obviously had to resource it, and a lot of their staff were on furlough as well, and like all businesses didn't want to bring back people off furlough because obviously footfall is down, and that's a huge cost to the business. So we had to manage and close some entrances and create other entrances that were going to allow queues to form on the street. So there was quite a lot of work to do in there, and also to get collaboration from other areas. My phone's ringing, sorry. Collaboration from other areas like highways to get streets closed, get signage removed and covered over so that it was given directions to the right car parks and things, so we didn't have chaos on the streets. So there was an awful lot of management to go into that site to sort out the traffic routes and what have you. But we got there. Clearly the lockdowns in one way or another have been really hard and difficult for all businesses, and we've prepared safe reopening packs for businesses, providing with the guidance and risk assessment advice and support to help them reopen safely when the government guidance allowed them. So initially it was retail, then it was pubs and restaurants, then it was gyms, beauty salons, close contact services, all of those things. And for every type of business that operates, there is a different type of guidance with a whole different set of rules and regulations to comply with. So, you know, like yourselves in the food and drink industry, all of those industries also had hoops to jump and try and get ready for opening, you know. I think a key part of opening the city was public confidence, because a lot of people that have been locked down for 3 months or so were not used to going about their business and were quite reluctant, I think, to come back into the city, which affects businesses because they obviously haven't got the footfall coming in then. So we created a group, a Reopening the City group, to try and think through these processes and steer them in the right direction and make sure that we got the streets and the cities and the car parks and all of that as COVID secure as they could be. So sanitisers, spots on the floor, signage, working with the businesses to get them open and play ball. The police were very helpful in that as well. You know, they helped. We went out every day to make sure that we were managing the queues, because a lot of queues were forming on the footfall, whereas we needed to keep the footfall moving rather than stagnating, where we know that infections can transmit. So we worked on that for quite a while. That was busy. We worked with lots of people during that, you know, from the police, highways, tourism, public health, the neighbourhood teams, because once we'd sorted the city out, we needed to move those controls into the district areas as well. So the neighbourhood teams has helped us do that as well. And then we wanted to try and help businesses at the same time. We knew that it was very challenging because the controls that you are being forced to implement ultimately reduces your capacities within your premises, which is harsh but currently necessary. So, you know, in a bid to try and counterbalance that, if you like, we've tried to create things in a different way. So by relaxing planning measures, allowing businesses to utilise outdoor space that perhaps they wouldn't normally be allowed to utilise, streamlining cafe licences. So we've managed to get a streamlined cafe licence now. It's a temporary version of the existing one, which runs till September 2021, I believe. And that reduces the cost significantly and turns it around within 7 days. So we hope that allows businesses to increase some outside capacity. At the moment, it's not that great because it's a bit rainy, but in the summer it was beneficial, I think. I played quite a big role in the marketplace offer, if you like. So the marketplace was something that the government had sort of given guidance that you could access this COVID fund and create space within the city to help businesses and what have you. And we knew that there was a huge reduction in capacity of businesses. So we wanted to try and create a space that was beneficial to the people of Derby, so a valuable space that was COVID secure, but also supported businesses to trade, if you like, which is quite a big ask, if you know what I mean, because to get something that everybody can take part in and everybody can utilise fairly is a bit of a challenge. But I think we pulled it off. We've got a really nice space which has been used by lots of people, because we didn't know whether people were going to like it or not. But
yeah, I think it's been a big success, hasn't it? I think we're going to hear in a moment actually from one of the people right in the middle of that.
Oh, brilliant!
If I can come back to you in a moment, if I may, during the Q&A, I should actually say to everybody that the Q&A button is there for you to use. So I want you to populate it with some fine questions to our guests today. Not only Roisin, who obviously has had a quite quiet time in between food parcels, terrorism, averting chaos on the streets, and streamlining licences. Roisin, we'll come back to you during the Q&A if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank
I'm
you.
going to bring in now Paul Harris, who's the managing director of the Derby Brewing Company, of course they were right in the middle of the marketplace alfresco dining experience, and also run, I think it's 4 pubs if I'm right here. Paul, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Roisin. Remember, we did quite a bit of work when we were reopening with Roisin, so I can't imagine how busy she must have been at that time. Yeah, it's been, I think for everybody, it's certainly been an eventful period. And I think I know John's touched on it a number of times, but I think the reality is you need to be quite adaptable at the moment and assess your business, what people are looking for as the world changes, as where people are located changes. Initially, obviously, very much moving out of the cities and back into their working from home and into their areas where they'd often be in the city and out and about in the week. To kind of come through, I guess, some of the things we've been doing as a business. So right at the very start of lockdown, we had literally only just opened one of our sites, the Hole in the Wall, in Micklover, so less than a couple of weeks, and it was closed. So we actually turned that into an off license. So we were offering beers, draft beers, packaged beers. People were able to come and get their containers, which at the time, getting your hands on proper beer, as it were, was very difficult to do. So it was massively well supported. We had a full social distancing process in place. People could often pre-order. And that was a case of obviously, looking at what people were looking for, and it was massively well received. We then, I guess, moved into the kind of reopening phase as that was allowed. And prior to that, we really realised that the emphasis was really going to move to more as pubs as a destination venue. So, improving the food offer, making sure that you are the venue, because in reality, there was no such thing as a pub crawl anymore. So unlike, going from place to place, you really had to kind of book where you were going to go. And we wanted to be that place where you'd come and enjoy, food and drink. So we actually brought in Tom Burton, who's the former head chef of the Pelfrey, fantastic chef. He worked, he's based at the Greyhound, but he also worked with all the other chefs to effectively put all new menus in across our entire business. And that's been hugely well received. We also refreshed all the venues and then looked at specific COVID secure measures. So I had long wanted to have an app, and we developed a Derby Brewing Company app. So as you can literally order from the table in our venues anything you might want. Obviously transactions are put through, so it's great from a COVID secure side of things, but also it's a loyalty card system. We can communicate directly with our customer base, and all of our venues were COVID secure certified to a gold standard, really trying to reassure people that it's a really safe environment to be in. And I think that was really, really important, because I think, as Roisin touched on, it was very much about building people's confidence and making people feel safe to be out of the house when you've been in that space for so long. So it's really kind of looking at what's important to people at that time, and you can't just kind of continue as you were, because the world has changed hugely. We also look to tap into the kind of take-home market and that side of things. So we offer takeaway food across all of our venues, again, because a lot of people, some people are comfortable out being out and about now, others are not yet. Others were shielding, so it's a very kind of much a moving feat, and it's important to get your offer right and give people what they're looking for. also, obviously, as Roisin touched on, we were really delighted to be involved in the Derby Marketplace, which I think was an absolute, and is an absolutely fantastic initiative. You know, it really helped boost, you know, a lot of city centre venues with, you know, people being able to dine in venue. It was important, obviously, to get that working as well from a COVID secure basis. So we operated the bar, but we had our own app all set up for that as a location. So again, people could order from the table via the app, collect loyalty points, which they can obviously spend there or in other Derby Brewing Company venues. And you know, that was it's been great. It's really boosted us as a business. You know, we actually operated it from the brewery tap, which is again a bit of an adaptation because that site's then operating 2 different venues, sharing products across the 2 different venues, and trying to kind of make the most of that as an opportunity, but also to give people, you know, the products and drinks that they're looking for. I guess the next kind of big evolution that came was obviously through, I guess, the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, and that was kind of that was a really great scheme, really well received, but it was also actually quite different for the sector because traditionally you'd be most busy at the weekends, and then suddenly you're absolutely slammed early week. Some of the things that we had in place, we had to go to a full table service because it's not necessarily working with the app. So you're again just kind of moving as you go, but it's again just about maximising it. We then at that time all of our sites weren't open 7 days a week, so we're then opening additional days to maximise. So the scheme worked fantastically well in terms of boosting our trade, creating employment, and encouraging again people to come out and feel comfortable, and that was a really, really important aspect. And actually some of the learnings from that which we were adapting into, we're actually launching our own kind of Eat Out to Help Out throughout October, so it'll be a third off food across all of our venues Monday to Friday. And I think that's again rolling with it. You know, yes, we get the VAT reduction, but actually it's better to, you know, take a reduction in your margins and drive your trade, keep your businesses ticking over. And I think ultimately this is where we are in the rest of this year. Is it's about keeping your businesses ticking over, planning for the future. We're all very positive about where we're going, and you know, we very much hope that, you know, a lot of things are saying that, you know, the vaccine will be coming kind of back end of the year. So, and kind of all that early next year. So it's about, like I say, taking over in that meantime, doing what we can and adapting with things. Obviously, there is a continuous moving feed, and we touched on it earlier in terms of obviously now the curfew and ongoing restrictions. So for us, that, I mean, in reality, that's an hour and a half straight key trade in the week, 2.5 hours at the weekend. So again, that comes into adapting. So as has been touched on, you know, we're soon be launching a brunch menu at the Greyhound. We've already launched one of the Pig in Litchfield. We're offering new and different things. We are trying to roll with it, but I think, you know, as has been touched on in the chat, there is no justification for the curfew. The curfew is not, unlike social distancing, which we're fully on board with, we put in place, has to be safe. There doesn't seem to be any scientific evidence, and actually Boris Johnson was interviewed on Sunday on the Andrew Marr show and said, we've been led to believe that maybe the less time people are in alcoholic drinks environments, that could be better. So it's very wishy-washy, especially when you bear in mind that only 3% of the infections are coming from the licensed trade sector. So it's a very safe environment, only secondary to prisons, which is 1%. So ultimately, to have people leaving that controlled, safe environment onto the streets, as has been touched on, doesn't make sense. But again, that's in terms of adapting, we've had to roll with that. But it is on the cusp of turning a lot of the sector into unviable. So we're obviously pushing quite hard, and there's thankfully been on, you know, the local press recently about it. But that's something that we're trying to adapt to.
we'll see what happens with the curfew, because as you say, it's proving incredibly unpopular and increasing pressure to ditch it on the government. Paul, thank you very much indeed for that insight into your business and how you're adapting through all this. I'm going to bring in Helen Vann now, the sales manager at Pentahotel, who did a remarkable thing during lockdown. I feel I don't even need to introduce it because it's that good. Helen, straight over to you. There's always one on you. There's always one there. There's always
one. Usually always me. Thank you. Hi everyone. Firstly, thanks to Marketing Derby, Katie, John. Thanks for having me on the panel. Hospitality as an industry, I think a challenge throughout. It's a very, very tough year, but I think it's really important to focus on the positives that come out of it, no matter how small they are. I think it's really vital to shout about those and celebrate those. So great event and great reason for me to be here. So as kind of previously mentioned already, Nick, we took the opportunity back in June to reopen the hotel for our key workers. Penta as a company, Penta as a brand, have always been focused on giving back to our communities that our hotels are in. A lot of hotels, you know, people that travel, the customer base that we have in hotels are people that aren't from the local area. So it's really important for us to also, you know, offer our services and offer what we have for the people that are local to those cities as well. And that's one of the reasons that we opened back in June. Reason for reopening, you know, we've got people travelling into the city. We know from speaking to our customers, speaking to people around, you know, they had nowhere to stay. They were struggling with places to stay. They were struggling for these services because of the impact that it had from lockdown. And it also, from a hotel's perspective, allowed us a bit of time to adapt our safety measures, adapt our guidelines, you know, to get the hotel back up and running in a way that we needed to with the new, you know, the new situation that we found ourselves in. And that was probably one of our biggest challenges as far as coronavirus and the pandemic led us into, was putting the guidelines and safety measures into our hotel without impacting our brand and without impacting the service that we offered. So those of you who've been to a Penta hotel, we're not a typical, we don't do normal, is kind of how I word it. We're not the normal hotel, you know, you check in at the bar, we don't have a hotel lobby. Our lounge area is full of sofas, it's got very atmospheric lighting, and we're here for you to kind of sit down, relax and socialise. And how do you, the question that faced us was, how do we turn that around and make it coronavirus safe without impacting the reason that people come to us in the first place? And that is kind of where we put our heads together and developed this campaign called Between Us. We called it Between Us because we know there's something between us at the moment, but this is what we've got in place, this is how it's going to work, and this is how we're here for you, essentially. We took, right from the beginning, we said a massive no to yellow and black caution tape. We weren't going to be covering our hotel in caution tape. So we changed our colours, we've changed it all to turquoise and to purple, and we, you know, we've branded all of our safety measures throughout the hotel in those colours and in that scheme, so that it fitted to our brand, and it was essentially branded measures and branded safety measures. And that's kind of what we put in. These are my newest little innovation. I don't know if anyone that can see. These are my little safety Penta pointers, we're calling them. They fit to our key rings, they fit to our little lanyards. We give these out to our customers, and they're to be used for touch points. So they're branded to ours, and they can be like hooked over handlebars to use throughout the hotel. They can be used in our lifts. You know, coffee machines, you name it, you can take those away to use in offices as well. And I suppose that's our way of giving back to our customers, you know, a COVID safe way, and just helping them get back to business and get back to work. And as you say, finding ways to adapt. Food and beverage. Anyone that knows me knows I'm quite a big foodie, so adapting our food and beverage was a second challenge for us, really. We you know, there's a demand there for people to eat more in bedrooms, to take things a little bit more away, and that essentially brought us to serving things in disposable packaging. Penta as a brand is so hugely focused. I think Brendan touched on it earlier. Sustainability, plastics. You know, hotels, hospitality are so notoriously known for using plastics throughout the industry, and we're, you know, as a company trying to reduce that. So, for example, our buffet breakfast, we're 100% plastic free, and now we're in a situation this year through the pandemic where we're having to, you know, serve our meals in disposable packaging that essentially will get thrown away. You know, where do we balance with our morals as a company, and our demand and our need to fit guidelines and to meet the safety measures? And the answer for that was to go recyclable, to go compostable, as much as we possibly can. And that's what we did. So all of our events, lunches and things like that, all of our meals, they all got packaged up into cardboard, you know, like lunchbox style, a little bit quirky, a little bit different. And we could serve those to each person individually in a COVID safe way, but we weren't impacting the environment so much as, you know, buying plastic cutlery and things like that. And that was a big turnaround for us, and that's really worked for us. And the feedback from that, you know, we've been able to stick to our values, or we've been able to stick to what we want and provide it in a way that's needed at the moment. So.
Excellent. Well, Helen, thank you very much. A hotel where you check in at the bar. You're no fool there. You're no fool.
Most important place, right?
without a doubt. You put beds down there as well, and then we'll all be happy. Helen from Pentahotel, thank you so much. And that was really interesting. Not just about how you adapted the hotel over lockdown for keywords, but also some of those little quirky innovations you were talking about there. So thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're going to move swiftly on now. One of the sectors that's been very severely hit, and you don't hear that much about, but it's in the news again today, and that's outdoor education centres. There's a lot of calls on the government today to help them out, because they've of course been severely hit. Really, really pleased today to be joined by Bryony Sibson, who's a sales and marketing manager at Mount Cook, up in the peaks, thereabouts. Bryony, delighted to see you today. Just talk us through a little bit how you've adapted during the course of lockdown, and particularly the Week in the Peak initiative.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Lovely to be able to talk to you all today, even if it's virtually. And just a quick apology if any of my words come out backwards. I did the virtual marathon yesterday and I've woken up with a different brain today, I'm sure, from what it was before. So apologies in advance. But yes, Mount Cook is a wonderful place. It's a not-for-profit, eco-friendly outdoor adventure centre. It was newly built in 2016. And generally we work with groups. So throughout the year we have school groups. That's usually about 85% of our business for educational residentials. And we also work with corporate groups for team building and away days. We do youth groups, charities, faith groups. So because we've got such a large capacity at 180 beds, really the focus is normally to fill it. It's been a mad year, and as Brendan said earlier, you know, there's the focus on being pivotal as a business and having those moments. But I feel it's been like riding the waltzes almost. There's been twists and turns, and the goalposts have moved. So just trying to keep up with that has been a task in itself. So like the whole industry, we shut in March. We couldn't open until July, and we had the realization in July that even though we could open, we weren't going to be able to deliver most of our business as we knew it before. So we had to diversify, and I just want to talk through sort of the 3 areas of diversification that we did at Mount Cook, sort of break it down a little bit. So the first was changing our product. So like I say, we couldn't deliver what we normally delivered. We had a little look at what the markets were doing, and one area that we didn't provide for before, which we decided to go for, was the families and individuals market. So we noticed the huge influx in domestic tourism, people desperate for that holiday, and the focus on getting back to nature as well. People were flocking to our national parks, and we were sort of oversubscribed as an area in a way. So we really wanted to to capture that. So we set up a £100 holiday, we called it, and it was 2 nights, £100 for a family of 4, and they could stay at the centre, do activities with us, and then either eat with us as well, because we've got catering, or go into the local area. And we made a point of recommending loads of local COVID safe places that families could visit and make reservations for. We also diversified our product in extending our facility. So we bought a new teepee, which is a big investment for us at a very challenging time. So risky, but we, like the big wedding ones that you see, we've got a 50-person teepee outside now, because we realised that when we can do groups, they're going to be on a much smaller capacity, and we needed to be able to adapt to that. So we've got lots of smaller workable spaces now around the centre that before we used very communally, but we've divided those up. So that was kind of diversification of our product. The second was delivery, and we've heard some amazing examples of how people have changed the way they deliver things from restaurants. I've used the Derby Brewing Company app, and they've been so good to me when I order a bottle of Prosecco to the wrong pub. They've been so wonderful. So the customer service has been maintained there amazingly. And how do we, as an outdoor centre, change how we deliver our product? So one thing we've done is we've decided we're going to go into schools now rather than get them to come to us. So we've again expanded our offering. We've bought a big climbing wall, and we've got the team together to go and be proactive and do those activity days on site in school, rather than expecting them to have the confidence yet to come to us. The sector as a whole is something completely different for the outdoor sector, but we just want to ensure that people still have access to those trips. So we've changed the way that we deliver that product. And then collaboration is the third point. So talking about the Week in the Peak initiative that we've done, we want to capture that domestic tourism market again. So we've created a week-long stay at Mount Cook. In the day, guests will do some of the best walks in the Peak District that we have to offer. We've got a lot of enthusiastic staff members that know some great places. And then in the evening, we've collaborated with a lot of local food and drink providers to try and show the best that we can of the Peak District. So an evening we'll have a food or drink tasting, such as whiskey or wine. We'll be working with Councillor Barry Lewis and his vineyard. Pie tasting, hopefully beer tasting, and just generally trying to educate guests on what they can do while they're here. Other ways we've collaborated, we're working with a local training provider, MITRE, on their apprenticeships. Apprenticeships are getting loads of incentives, and they're going to be a real next big thing for us. So we're developing an outdoor product with them. And also general collaboration with other activity providers who are providing emergency care for children who need rehoming. So we've been looking after some children at the centre during some downtime as well. So just to finish, I think those are my 3 points: diversification of product, changing your delivery, and collaboration. Like it's been said, we're just trying to ride it through till we can get a bit more stability. But I think if we collaborate and try and work with each other as much as possible, we'll ensure that all this provision and this knowledge can kind of sustain until we're able to get back to some sort of normality. So thanks very much.
Bryony, thank you so much. Very, very interesting stuff. Congratulations on getting out of bed today after doing the marathon, because of course what you didn't say is that you not only done the marathon, you did it up and down hills. So it's bad enough having to do it on the flat, but doing it up and down through the peaks as well. So many congratulations. Bryony is raising money for Bondholder Treetop, so by all means go and donate to that, because I think you look fantastic for having done that yesterday. I don't think I'll be able to move. So well done, and thanks very much indeed for coming on. Our last speaker of the day, then we're going to move to our final video because we're running very much up against the clock here. So unfortunately time has beaten us for the Q&A, but by all means keep it. There's some good stuff going on in the chat actually. So if you're not on the chat, go and check out the chat. Some very good questions and some points being raised on there, but not at the expense of listening to our last speaker, who is Max Poynton, Operations Manager at Project D. Who doesn't like a donut? Max, your business has changed, and you've had to change remarkably over the course of the next few months. Innovate, do all sorts of things with donuts and selling eggs and flour to boot. A very warm welcome to you.
Hi guys, yeah, I'm Max from Project D, and yeah, we've had a bit of a crazy period since coronavirus lockdown. We went from having our shops into Derby and Burton, shopping the shopping centres, to literally having no footfall. So we closed actually a week before we had to, close both the kiosks down, and we were like, we didn't even know what we were going to do. We were a bit worried actually about the future. So we initially furloughed all of our staff, and we sat down with the three of us who own it, and we sort of tried to put a plan together about what we were going to do. And before you knew it, we decided we were going to sell eggs, because nobody could get any eggs at the start of lockdown. And then we started a contactless egg delivery service across like the Midlands, well, mainly Derby, Nottingham and Burton. And that was so popular. We had thousands of orders for eggs that we were really struggling to fulfill. So we started selling eggs, and then we started selling flour and yeast as well. And it's basically all the essentials that we could get in abundance, but nobody else could get at the time. So we did that, and quite soon after a week or so, we brought all of the staff back off furlough and sort of like redeployed them in different roles. And we managed to keep all of our staff on, and not have to make anybody redundant, which a lot of bigger companies were doing at the time, which is something that we really didn't want to do. And then because we were selling essentials as well, it meant that we could still sell donuts. So, and obviously donuts make people happy. And obviously when it was a really tough time. So that's pretty much what we've been doing. We've just been sort of trying to put a smile on people's face, reinventing new donuts, and like coming up with some like crazy stuff that whatever we can just to keep people happy, really. But yeah, we also changed. We went down a different direction as well. We set up a donut delivery service as well. So we're delivering donuts to people's door, which is something that we didn't really feel would work before the coronavirus lockdown. With everyone leads such a busy life, people are always at work, but to deliver donuts through the day, through the week, we just didn't think that was a thing. But ever since the lockdown, we gave it a go, and it's been so popular, and we're still delivering. Now we've actually expanded as a business and grown throughout the lockdown period, which is pretty amazing, really, given everything that's going on. We've taken on quite a few new staff members. We've got a plan to move from our current bakery to a bakery that's 10.5 times bigger than the bakery we're in right now. We've got some huge plans to sort of take Project D nationwide from Derby, basically. So the new bakery is in Derby as well, which is going to be creating like quite a lot of jobs as well. We're aiming to create 100 jobs over the next 18 months, maybe even sooner. So, but it's really difficult. It's still a difficult time to plan anything, because at the moment we're still doing pop-up shops everywhere. We're still doing deliveries, but we've still not managed to reopen any locations permanently. Although we have got a few places that are leased, that are ready to go. We're just waiting for the right time to open, when we feel like it's going to be safe, when there's not going to be another lockdown. The last thing we want to do is sort of open up and then have to re-close again, or like it's still really uncertain. So that's probably the biggest difficulty we're facing at the moment. What's next? We sort of like living right now rather than planning. Ordinarily we'd be planning sort of next summer already, and we can't plan anything like that because we don't know what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. So the main thing that we're trying to do is just to take it day by day, keep growing in little ways that we can, keep reinventing the donuts and coming up with some crazy new donuts that are going to put a smile on people's face, that people are going to want to enjoy. But yeah, it was great as well that we won we got nominated recently for the Bondholder Innovation Award, which we won. So thank you to everyone that voted for us for that. So it's the first award that we've ever won, and that was basically just for innovating during a tough time. Like there was so many other like great innovative companies as well that I thought were amazing. But yeah, we're honoured to win that. So put a smile on everybody's face anyway. But yeah, we keep going all the time. Keep trying to change up. We through lockdown, we even managed to find the time to invent a new sort of product, and we invented a Doughnut, which is it's a cone that's made out of a donut that you fill full of ice cream. And we bought an ice cream van through lockdown and took it around the whole of Derby, Nottingham, all over the place, just with these Doughnut that we had. And it made the front page of the Telegraph, which was quite cool in Derby. but then it also made like the Daily Mirror, Lad Bible, loads of stuff all over the place. So yeah, we've had a eventful period really. It's like we've just tried to be positive. We've kept everybody safe. We've always followed all of the correct guidelines, but we've managed to keep everybody safe, have some fun along the way, bring some smiles to people, and that's sort of what we're about really. We just whatever gets thrown at us, we tackle and we take it on. So it's actually been a great period really to see what we're made of, to test us really. So, but yeah, that's sort of what we've been doing.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Max. If I take anything away from you today, it is this: donuts make people happy.
Yeah, true.
Many congratulations and best of luck for 2021. Guys, the Q&A has beaten us for time, unfortunately, but I'd like to say huge thank you to all our guests today. There's a whole variety of challenges, a whole variety of businesses within our speakers, and I think there's so much that we picked up and learned that we can not only enjoy but also take away with us. I'm sure there's been lots of stuff also in the chat box as well. So all good stuff. We've reached the end of today's event. So thank you very much indeed for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've picked up some good thoughts, some advice, some tips, and just some good friendly chat. I think in any business during the last few months, one of the things that's very easy to do is feel like you're on your own. That's whether it's hospitality or whether it's anything. And you know, it's hard. It's been really, really hard. But I've loved today. One of the things I've really, really enjoyed about today is just seeing everybody kind of pull together, have a chat, share advice, share all of that kind of thing. And I very much, I'll go away from this, and I hope you will too, feeling a little bit buoyed. You know, feeling like we're in good form here. We are going to try one more poll, are we, John? Our final question of the day is coming up. And whilst it's coming up, I'm going to read it. Oh, here we are. Having heard from our fantastic speakers today, how positive are you about the recovery of the hospitality industry in 2021? Positive, hopefully by 2021 things will have improved. Neutral, let's see how the next 6 months go. Or not very positive, it'll take a while to recover. So positive, neutral, or not very positive. Let's see what you all think. And, well, that's great. What a great note to end on. 64% of you are positive. Hopefully by 2021 things will have improved. And it's great to see 0% saying not very positive. It'll take a while to recover. So overwhelmingly positive note to end on. I think today shows that despite the events over the last few months, there are still lots and lots going on in the hospitality sector in this city. Lots to be optimistic about, and let's hope we can look forward to a far more settled, stable, enjoyable and profitable 2021. And with that, John, back to you.
Well, nothing else to say, Nick, except thanks to you for chairing it. Thanks to Brendan for his really useful oversight presentation. And then all 5 panelists. I think what I've taken away is this incredibly positive energy and some fantastic innovations in various different sectors. We've heard from brewers, we've heard from pubs, hotels, outdoor leisure centres, food production and the lot. So thanks a lot. Sorry about the films and the technicals there. As I said, we will tweet them out in a few minutes, so you'll be able to watch them at your leisure. Believe me, they are both really, really worth watching. Both the student in terms of what he's been involved in, but also some of the bondholders and the surviving through the lockdown. So without further ado, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.